Before we get started, I just want to give you a spoiler warning for Stranger Things 4. If you have not seen this season of the show, then that is your warning. There are going to be spoilers within this video. I also want to say that my opinions on this show may not align with yours. Obviously, that's just fine. We are welcome to think different things about this, but don't take this video too seriously. It's literally just a TV show. It's not that serious. Let's just have some fun talking about it and the things that worked and didn't work, because I do have a lot to say, but I'm going to try my best to keep it relatively concise. And I'm just going to get my thoughts about the season just out of the gate right here so that you kind of know what I feel about it going into some of my critiques, because I did enjoy the season for what it was. I thought it was alright. I have so many issues in terms of the pacing and the way that the characters are used and the storylines we focus on, but I was entertained enough to watch the entire season, and it's close to, 12 hours long, so that's no small feat to at least keep me captivated, even though I certainly wasn't captivated during every scene or every storyline. So that's that. I did enjoy the season well enough, but it also left me with a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, particularly the way that we left off. But first, let's focus on the characters, because there are so many characters that have been around here since season 1, and I feel that some of them just get so little focus. We really don't get that much out of Mike this season. I feel like anything to do with him revolves around Eleven, and there's very little in terms of actually focusing on him as a character. I really think that character has been so pushed to the side this season, and we get so little from him. Again, I can't go over every single character, but to me that is one of the biggest issues of this season, is the way that the returning characters are pushed to the side and we don't get a lot of focus on some of them. Now, some we do. I actually really enjoyed a lot of what was done with Max, particularly in episodes 3 and 4, which are my favorite episodes from this season. I thought those were both quite strong episodes. It helps that episode 3 is the shortest one this season. It's only 60 minutes, and it doesn't feel like it's wasting your time as much. And especially episode 4, I feel like I got quite a bit from Max and her character, and it felt like there was actually danger there, and it was just a very captivating and well-presented episode. And episode 4 is, to me, the highlight of this season. And I think that's because it does focus on Max's character and manage to present what feels like a legitimate threat. But a lot of the other characters I got very little out of, especially Mike, but also people like Hopper. We just see Hopper in jail for like 7 episodes. They tease you with that Demogorgon until it finally shows up, and to be fair, when the Demogorgon does show up, that's kind of an awesome sequence. But there's so little going on for me with Hopper. I got really bored with that storyline very quickly. It was just like, okay, we're going through the motions, we're getting there eventually, but we're going to take our sweet time to get there, and we're not going to do much in terms of giving Hopper something to do. That was a big shame for me, is the fact that season 3 killed off the character. And then season 4 said, actually, he's not dead, and here's a storyline where he doesn't do very much. That's such a shame to me, because that impact of his death was, I thought, pretty strong and a good way to end season 3 of the show. So to bring him back and to do so little with him, to me, really felt like a shame. And it also goes into what was done with Joyce. Her whole goal within this season is to save Hopper, to get him back, and a lot of that storyline was not very interesting. It's just getting to Russia and getting him back. I didn't really care for Murray very much in this season. He felt like forced comic relief, and in moments he was funny, but a lot of it just felt so forced that I didn't find it humorous whatsoever. I also really didn't like the character of Yuri. I found him to be incredibly annoying and, again, just a forced, unfunny character. And that leads me into another big problem with the characters in this season. So much focus is given to new characters who are either annoying or I just don't care about, or in the worst of cases, both, because I cared so little about Yuri and I found his presence to be a little bit aggravating, because it just does not feel natural. And this is even more true for the character of Eddie Munson. And here is the point where I may get absolutely attacked, because I know that people seem to love Eddie Munson, but I gotta be honest, I could not stand this character. I found him to be so unnatural, so unfunny. Every attempt at humor felt forced and phony.
But as long as you're into band, or science, or parties, or a game where you toss balls into laundry baskets.
You want something, freak?
It just did not fit within the show. It was so unfortunate, because a show like this, you would think that blending comedy and darkness would be to its advantage. But when it feels so forced, and when the character feels so two-dimensional like Eddie Munson, I just got so little out of that. To me, it was a big shame, because the character could have been really strong, but it feels like they did not do enough to develop his actual character, and any attempts to actually do that just felt incredibly surface level. So I thought that was such a shame, because we have all of these returning characters we could have focused on, and instead we focus on people like Eddie Munson, who I just didn't care about and found annoying and found to be so two-dimensional.
I mean, what are you even looking for?
Madonna, Blondie, Bowie, Beatles, music! We need music!
This is music!
And I would have liked to see more development with our returning characters, and there's so much done that I just didn't find that interesting. And this leads me more into the storylines of this season, because so much of those felt poorly handled. There's a lot of stuff in terms of the backstory for Eleven, which quite frankly, I did not care about whatsoever. It's this whole mystery about, oh, where did she come from? How did this happen? To me, it doesn't matter. Eleven is who she is, and we can explore that, but instead the show is really focused on, okay, who was she back then and what happened to her back then? And quite frankly, to me, I don't think it matters all that much. And this all culminates in episode 7 with the reveal of 1 being Vecna, which was a pretty predictable reveal. I mean, it was very clear that's what was happening. And they spent a whole, 10 minutes on this monologue of, oh, I'm 1, I'm Vecna, this is what happened to me. It felt like it was trying to be this big epic moment. Did not land whatsoever for me, because what does that actually tell me about Vecna? What does that actually tell me about this orderly, who, by the way, was so creepy it was obvious that he was going to be Vecna? It's like, okay, here's the creepiest orderly we can have. Guess who this is going to end up being in the future? Yeah, it's not a big surprise. I just really didn't care about that backstory for Eleven, and again, it feels like the show wants to give characterization to a villain, but to me, I got so little out of that backstory in terms of actually understanding Vecna. It didn't really tell me all that much more, aside from the literal facts of where the character is from and what happened to them. It doesn't really explain why they're necessarily evil, other than, oh, they were the original one, they were tortured. It feels really superficial and two-dimensional. I would have liked to explore the character of Vecna and 1 a little bit more, but instead the show seems more focused on these big revelatory moments that are not all that revelatory of, look, they're the same character. Like, okay, but tell me more about that character, please. The previous seasons, what seems to happen is, okay, here's the big monster, and it's like the last monster, but it's bigger or something. It's just, some big monster for the season. And that has been relatively effective, but I do appreciate that this season is trying to develop the character of the monster. I just think it was very poorly handled, and ultimately wasn't executed all that well. And everything going on with Jonathan on that side of the country, I was just so unengaged by. Didn't care about it whatsoever, and there's so much of this season that focuses on things that are just plain dull. I already mentioned the Hopper stuff, the Eleven stuff, the Jonathan stuff, so much of Mike's stuff, and a lot of Joyce's stuff. Just feels like, okay, can we please cut to the chase? And this leads me a little bit into the runtime of this season. I know this is something that has been hotly discussed, and the thing is, the runtime shouldn't matter. It should not be a big deal that episodes are 80 minutes long, as long as they are engaging. But because there are big portions of the storylines that I found myself unengaged by, I really felt like, yeah, you can trim so much of this out and make this so much better paced. Again, I actually did enjoy the season for what it was. There was things I liked with Max and her storyline, but there's so much about what this season is that I just didn't get much from. I think it's the weakest one of the show, and I think each season has been a little bit weaker than the previous season. So I do like that the show is trying to do something a little bit different in season 4. I just think it feels self-indulgent to have these really long episodes that focus on things that don't actually matter all that much, at least from where I'm sitting. Again, apparently a lot of people really like this, so if they enjoy it, that's just fine and good for them. I just have so many issues with the way that this season was handled and what was done within here. And the last thing I really want to focus on is the ending and how it highlights the problems of the previous seasons of Stranger Things and how they just keep coming back. It really is highlighted through Max literally dying and being brought back to life immediately afterwards, because she actually dies and they let you feel this heartfelt moment. And I got teared up watching it because I was like, oh no, Max, I like that character. And then for them to immediately say, fuck you to the audience and bring her back just like that, like they're toying with us the same way that they did with Hopper, it feels so manipulative and absolutely pathetic as a means of storytelling. Like, yes, we killed off a character, but we actually don't have the guts to kill off any meaningful characters, so we're going to bring her right back. It's literally the exact thing that happened at the end of season 3 of the show, where they killed off a smaller character like Billy, and in the case of this one, Eddie, and that character actually died, and then they pretend they're killing off a main character like Hopper and Max, only for that character to actually be just fine at the end of the day. And I really just don't appreciate that kind of storytelling because it's so dishonest to the audience. It's like, yes, let's have this emotional, heartfelt moment. Nope, it's bullshit. And again, coming back to that runtime, a 2-hour, 20-minute episode shouldn't matter all that much, but it matters if you really feel that runtime, and I really felt that runtime for the last episode. There's a clear moment about an hour 35 in where it cuts to black for multiple seconds. It clearly feels like it's building up to a cliffhanger moment, and it lets you feel that moment for just a couple of seconds before it cuts back into the action of the episode. It very much feels like they wanted that to be a cliffhanger moment, but they did not commit to actually making it a cliffhanger moment, and thus it's just the middle of the episode. I don't know why this episode is 2.5 hours long when it clearly feels like 2 separate episodes with an actual cliffhanger roughly in the middle, though not quite, but a 45-minute finale would have been a plenty long enough episode. I don't know, again, it should not matter, but it's strange to have an episode this long, and especially for me because I really felt that runtime, and I really just felt the, okay, let's get on with it. And I felt things were dragged out a little too much. I would have liked to see it tightened up in that finale, or at the very least split into 2 separate episodes, because there's a very clear point within this episode where they could have done that. And again, coming back to Eddie Munson, they do kill off that character, and I felt nothing because personally I didn't like the character. If you liked Eddie Munson a lot, I can imagine this being a heartfelt moment, a sad moment for you, but for someone like me who does not enjoy the character, I was glad to see him go because it means I don't have to see that character next season. And again, that's not trying to be rude, it's just not a character that I connect with whatsoever, and I feel is very inauthentic. Overall, I thought this was an entertaining season of television that is absolutely riddled with issues. If you watch this review, you're probably expecting a fairly low rating, and it's not going to be as high as the previous seasons, but I do think it's an entertaining season of television. I liked episodes 3 and 4 a good bit, I liked episode 8 a solid amount. There are things within here that I really enjoy, and there are things within here that I felt, please, for the love of God, get on with it. To me, again, it feels a little self-indulgent focusing on all of these things that are not all that important, and I really wish they had focused on the actual main characters of the show, because I would have liked to see more stuff done with them, and to see them developed even more, because a lot of it feels retreaded from previous seasons, which to me is a shame. So yeah, I liked it in places. It was well made for the most part, even though there are things about it that don't look great, including the color grading and the color palette of the whole season. But again, that's kind of nitpicky from where I'm sitting. It's really the broader storyline and character concerns that I care about, and I was entertained for the season, but it is to me by far the weakest season of the show, and I hope that the next season improves. So I had a good enough time with this season, again enjoyed it, but have so many issues that I can't give it a very strong rating, so I'm going to give Stranger Things 4 a rating of 7.25 out of 10. That may feel like a kind of high rating based on the issues that I focused on talking about within this review, and it kind of is. Like, it's a positive rating, but also for a show to consistently be at around a 7-star quality is to me not a show I'm likely to keep up with. So what do you think about Stranger Things Season 4? Did you enjoy it more than me? I suspect you probably did because it looks like most everyone enjoyed it more than me, but I had a decent enough time with this season, so I'm curious as to what you all have to say. And also, I will be bringing you a review of Classic Doctor Who Season 15 very soon. I just wanted to get this video out while it's a little bit more topical, and I hope to see you around soon for future videos, but if not, that is totally cool. Just know that I appreciate your time here today, and with that said, thank you very much for watching. Take care, and have a lovely week.